The question pierced through Simon Cowell's carefully constructed reality like a blade of pure truth. 6-year-old Phoenix Walker stood on the Britain's Got Talent stage, her innocent face turned toward the judges' panel, as she asked with devastating simplicity, "How does it feel to have no soul left, Mr. Cowell?" What happened next defied every law of human biology and medicine. Simon's skin began changing color, not gradually, not subtly, but rapidly turning black as if darkness was spreading through his very being. For the first time in television history, the absence of a soul was manifesting as physical transformation, and what this child could see would expose the supernatural void where Simon Cowell's humanity used to exist. But to understand how a 6-year-old's innocent question triggered the most disturbing physical metamorphosis ever captured on live television, we need to go back to where this nightmare began. It was a sweltering July afternoon at the London Palladium, and Britain's Got Talent was conducting what would become the most medically inexplicable auditions in the show's history. Simon sat in his familiar throne of judgment, that expression of calculated coldness perfectly in place, ready for another day of extinguishing hope with surgical precision. The afternoon had been particularly brutal. Simon had told a young violinist her music sounded like cats being tortured, dismissed a teenage poet as proof that words should be rationed, and suggested a family dance troupe find a hobby that doesn't require public humiliation. Each cruel critique had been delivered with Simon's signature blend of sadistic pleasure and emotional detachment. What the audience didn't know was that with every soul-crushing comment, something invisible was happening to Simon, something that would soon become terrifyingly visible. "Next up," announced the production coordinator, "we have Phoenix Walker, age 6, from Wales. She says she can see things others can't see." Simon barely glanced up from his notes. 6-year-olds claiming special sight usually meant they could spot their favorite cartoon characters in clouds. He prepared himself for 3 minutes of adorable observations that would require a patronizing smile. But when Phoenix Walker walked onto that stage, the temperature in the studio seemed to drop 10 degrees. She moved with an otherworldly grace that was unsettling in someone so young. Her silver-white hair caught the stage lights like moonbeams, and her pale blue eyes held depths that seemed impossible for a 6-year-old. She wore a simple white dress that made her look like a tiny angel, but there was something about her presence that commanded absolute attention. More disturbing was her behavior. While most children were overwhelmed by the massive stage and bright lights, Phoenix was staring directly at Simon with the intensity of someone seeing through multiple dimensions. "Hello there, little angel," Simon said, his voice taking on the condescending tone he used for very young contestants. "What's your name?" "Phoenix Walker," she replied, but her voice carried no childish excitement or nervousness. It was steady, clear, almost ethereal. "And you're 6 years old?" "Yes, Mr. Oshley, and I can see people's souls." Simon's eyebrow raised with amusement. "You can see souls? That's very interesting. And what do souls look like, Phoenix?" Phoenix tilted her head, studying Simon with an intensity that made him unconsciously lean back in his chair. "Most people's souls look like bright lights, Mr. Cowell. Some are gold, some are silver, some are rainbow colors. But yours—" She paused, her expression growing troubled. "What about mine, sweetheart?" Simon asked, his professional smile firmly in place. "I can't see yours at all, Mr. Cowell. There's just empty black space where it should be." The studio audience found this charming in its innocence, some people chuckling at the 6-year-old's vivid imagination. Amanda Holden looked sympathetic. Alessia Dixon leaned forward with concern. David Walliams was preparing his gentle, encouraging response. But Simon felt something else, a strange coldness spreading through his chest that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. "Empty black space?" Simon repeated, trying to maintain his composure. "That sounds rather dramatic for someone so young." Phoenix's expression grew more serious, far too serious for a 6-year-old. "It's not dramatic, Mr. Cowell. It's sad. Really, really sad. Because souls are what make people able to feel love and kindness and sorry when they hurt others." That's when Phoenix Walker asked the question that would change everything. "How does it feel to have no soul left, Mr. Cowell?" The moment those words reached Simon's ears, something impossible began happening. A dark patch appeared on Simon's left hand, like a shadow spreading under his skin. Not a bruise, not a discoloration, actual blackness that seemed to emanate from within his very being. Simon stared at his hand in confusion, as the darkness spread up his arm like spilled ink seeping through fabric. "What?" Simon started to speak, but more darkness was spreading across his neck, visible above his shirt collar. Phoenix watched with clinical fascination. "It started yesterday when you made the little girl with the violin cry," she observed. That's when the first bit of blackness appeared on your heart, but you couldn't see it because it was inside. The studio was beginning to notice something was seriously wrong. The cameras captured every horrifying detail as Simon's skin continued darkening, the blackness spreading like a living thing across his face and hands. "This isn't possible," Simon gasped, looking at his increasingly dark hands. "When people use up all their kindness and love and care for others, the soul gets smaller and smaller," Phoenix explained with 6-year-old directness. "Every time you hurt someone just to be mean, a little piece of your soul goes away, and when it's all gone, the darkness shows on the outside." Simon's panic was immediate and visceral. He could feel the darkness spreading through his skin, but there was no pain, only a profound emptiness that seemed to be consuming him from within. "Make it stop," Simon pleaded, his voice barely recognizable as more of his skin turned black. "I can't make it stop, Mr. Cowell," Phoenix replied sadly. "Only you can do that, but you have to want your soul to come back. You have to really truly want to be good again." The transformation was accelerating. Simon's face was now partially blackened, creating a horrifying contrast with his remaining normal skin. He looked like he was being consumed by darkness in real time. "The blackness shows all the places where your soul used to be," Phoenix continued matter-of-factly. "Your hands are black because you used them to hurt people with cruel words. Your face is black because you smiled when you made people cry." Simon tried to cover the blackness with his hands, but that only made it more visible. The man who had built his career on cold indifference was experiencing the physical manifestation of that emotional void. "I don't understand what's happening to me," Simon whispered, his voice cracking with terror. "Your inside is finally matching your outside, Mr. Cowell," Phoenix explained gently. "For a long time you looked normal on the outside, but were empty on the inside. Now everyone can see what I see." The other judges were staring in horror as Simon's transformation continued. Medical personnel rushed toward the stage, but they stopped in confusion when they realized this wasn't a normal medical emergency. "Please," Simon begged, now more black than normal skin tone, "tell me how to make it stop." Phoenix's expression softened for the first time since taking the stage. "You have to find the pieces of your soul that you threw away, Mr. Cowell. They're still there, but they're hiding because they're afraid you'll hurt them again." "How do I find them?" Simon asked desperately. "You have to say sorry to every person you hurt, and you have to mean it with your whole heart, and you have to promise to never throw away pieces of your soul again by being cruel just for fun." For the next hour, as his skin remained predominantly black, Simon Cowell did something he'd never done in his career. He genuinely apologized, not for cameras, not for damage control, but to try to reclaim the soul he'd carelessly discarded piece by piece over decades of calculated cruelty. "I'm sorry to every person I made cry just for entertainment," he said, his blackened face wet with tears. "I'm sorry for choosing cruelty over kindness, for picking meanness over mercy." Gradually, very slowly, tiny patches of normal skin began to appear, but the process was agonizingly slow. Each genuine moment of remorse only restored a small fragment of his original appearance. "It's working," Phoenix said encouragingly. "Your soul is trying to come back, but it's scared because it's been hurt so many times by your choices." When the transformation finally stabilized, Simon was left with a patchwork appearance, some areas of normal skin where genuine remorse had taken hold, but large dark patches where the emptiness remained. The episode never aired in its original form, but the footage became legendary among medical professionals who couldn't explain how emotional vacancy could manifest as physical darkness. Simon returned to television eventually, but he was fundamentally changed both in character and appearance. The permanent dark patches on his skin served as a constant reminder of the cost of soullessness. Phoenix Walker disappeared from public view after that day, but legend has it that she now works with hospices, helping people find their souls before it's too late to reclaim them. The 6-year-old who could see souls had taught Simon Cowell the most visceral lesson possible, that when we throw away our humanity piece by piece, eventually the darkness we've created inside becomes impossible to hide. Because sometimes the body's wisdom is more powerful than the mind's capacity for self-deception, even if it takes a child who can see souls to make that wisdom literally visible through the simple act of asking what it feels like to have no soul left.